What we're going to discuss today is the true cost of a funeral. There's been a lot of folks have a lot of different ideas about a funeral, but this brochure by Monumental Life Company right here, Monumental, we're independent agents, and so we represent a lot of companies, but this company primarily we really like for our last expense category, which is basically, they used to call it burial insurance years ago. And the reason why we like this brochure is because it lays out point by point the true cost of a funeral, which we like to go over in all of our presentations with families, usually sitting at the kitchen table. And it's really kind of floors a lot of folks because, you know, it has gone up so high. We also use a brochure that illustrates the cost of a funeral and the inflation that indicates from 1970 when funerals cost $1,000 all the way to today, where funerals can cost as much as $12,000, believe it or not. The first line item that goes into a funeral is the transfer of the deceased, which we call that a removal, and that could be either from the place of death to the mortuary. Place of death could include the home, the nursing home, or even the hospital. So you always got to go from wherever the place of death is to the mortuary. So that's the transfer of the deceased, which is about $295. The next line item is the funeral home director. They have to pay their taxes, they have to pay their ongoing maintenance and upkeep, their staff, they have to pay for their chapel, and they also have to pay for the availability to respond 24 hours a day. So that's going to be a pretty hefty charge, which is usually about $2,500. The next line item is embalming. We always instruct that anytime that a family member, you want a family member to go to a traditional funeral where there's going to be a visitation, there must be an embalming, which is usually around $795. The next items will be the casket, which mid-range casket's going to be about $1,500. And then in the state of Illinois, you got to have a vault, and the vault's usually going to be about $1,200. Then you jump down. If you don't have a church home, you have to rent a facility for a memorial service, which is usually going to be about $550. And then, of course, for the casket, you must have a hearse, and that's going to range about $350. And then for graveside services, that's usually going to be about $100. And that figure by itself is about $7,000, and that's, of course, before the cemetery plot, the gravesite opening and closing, the flowers, the obituary in the newspaper, and then your church programs and headstones. So it's going to be every bit of about $12,000. And